Dear participants, in the last class, we discussed the prescriptive process of strategic management. And in today's session, we will discuss another important perspective in strategic management, that is emergent process of strategic management. Traditional approaches often assume that strategies are carefully planned in advance and then implemented according to a predetermined plan. However, in reality, many successful organizations develop their strategies gradually as the situation arises through experience, through learning, experimentation, and adaptation. And this approach is known as emergent strategy. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to understand what emergent strategy means, how strategies emerge in organizations, the role of learning and adaptation in strategic management, different theories which are supporting emergent strategy, and advantages and criticisms of the emergent approach. Strategic management, from an emergent perspective, can be described as a process of discovering opportunities, experimenting with solutions, and gradually developing competitive advantages over a period of time. Unlike the planning approach, the emergent strategy does not assume that managers can accurately predict the future. The business environment is constantly changing because of technological developments, changing customer preferences, competitors' actions, regulations by the government, and also global economic changes. So, because of these uncertainties, organizations must continuously learn and adapt. So the key characteristics of emergent strategy includes that this strategy is developed through learning and experience because organizations learn from success as well as failure. So in response to success, in response to failure, they develop a strategy because they have a learning, they get experience. Then another characteristic is that the emergent strategies help organizations adapt to changing environment. So when organizations are adapting to changing environments because business are continuously adjusting to the external changes that we have mentioned, so organizations adapt to these changes, and this is another characteristic of emergent strategy. Another characteristic is that strategic direction evolves over time because strategy is not fixed but dynamic. Another characteristic is experimentation and flexibility are central because managers often test new ideas before committing fully to the idea. So there's a flexibility, there's experimentation, testing, trial and error method through which they reach to a conclusion and they finalize a strategy. Also, competitive advantage emerges gradually. Long-term success develops through continuous improvement, and with time, organizations come to know that in which area they are doing well, in which area they may be earning more profit, where they have competitive advantage. So competitive advantage also emerges gradually with time, with learning, and with experimentation. Therefore, strategy becomes a journey rather than a fixed destination. So, this model highlights three major influences. First is environment. In the emergent strategy, external factors play an important role. External factors such as competition, customers, technology, and changing customer preferences, and also government policies. So these comes under environmental factors which play a major role in formulating emergent strategy. The second influence is resources. Resources could be financial resource, could be technological, could be HR, employee, could be the knowledge based, and also could be the capabilities. So, this is also one of the major influences of emergent process. The third influence in the emergent strategy is purpose. The organization's mission, the organization's vision, its objectives also play important role. And now these three factors interact continuously. Rather than developing a complete strategy first and then implementing it, organizations constantly adjust their actions based on changing circumstances. So managers learn from outcomes and modify future actions accordingly. This creates an ongoing cycle of adaptation and strategic development. One of the most important ideas in emergent strategy is that development and implementation occur simultaneously. The traditional view says that organizations need to formulate a strategy, implement a strategy, and then evaluate the results obtained. But the emergent view says that there is a need to take action first, then adjust the actions according to the circumstances, and then developing a strategy while implementing it. In practice, organizations rarely follow a perfectly linear process. Managers often discover better opportunities while implementing the existing plans. For example, a company launches a product. Now, customer feedback reveals unexpected uses for the product. The company then modifies its strategy to serve those newly identified or newly discovered needs of customers. So, this way, the strategy evolves through action. Emergent strategy develops through learning, where organizations learn from experience. They learn through experience and then they form a strategy depending upon their experience. Emergent strategy also develops through experimentation. Companies test different approaches, and whatever approach best suits them, they adapt that. Emergent strategy also develops through discussion because ideas emerge from conversation among employees, managers, through meetings, through giving their views. So, emergent strategy also comes through this. Then, emergent strategy also also develops through adaptation. Organizations modify actions based on environmental changes, and based on these changes, they adapt themselves to these changes and they formulate a new strategy depending upon whatever is the requirement. So, important features here include continuous improvement, flexibility, innovation is there, knowledge sharing is also there, and also responsiveness. Responsiveness to the changing environment, the changing needs around the organizations. Now, emergent strategy is particularly useful when markets are highly dynamic. Also, when technologies are changing rapidly, when customer preferences are also uncertain. Many times, future conditions are also difficult to be predicted. So, organizations in this case may be able to develop emergent strategy as they need to adapt quickly to sometimes customer preferences, to changing technologies, to the changing government policies even. So there may not be a fixed strategy. An emergent strategy would be useful in this case. Organizations become more resilient because they can quickly respond to the unexpected events when they are adapting emergent strategy. In the given example, uh, we can see that when problem or objective is identified, It is immediately discussed with managers or it is discussed with the employees in different departments or different groups. Then there is maybe a decision that is taken, but if it fails, then another decision comes and they can try that option. There could also be sometimes success, sometimes failure. And if in first go, when they have the first option, they use it, they employ it and it is successful, then they identify related or subsequent initiative. And then those subsequent initiatives could again be discussed with immediate managers or different departments or companies or the group in which the companies work. So several important principles guide emergent strategy. First principle is strategy develops gradually. It is not created all at once. So emergent strategy, like we have discussed, develops gradually through experience, through learning, through changing circumstances, because of changing government policies, because of changing customer preferences, rather than through fixed long-term plans. So strategy develops gradually. Another important principle that guide emergent strategy is everyday decisions matter, because every day they can see what is happening, how things are responding, what changes organizations need to bring. So many strategic changes begin with routine operational decisions, because this helps in bringing small changes daily or with or with time weekly. So everyday decisions matter a lot. Another principle that guide emergent strategy is flexibility. Flexibility and adaptability are central features of the emergent approach, and they are very essential. Rigid organizations struggle a lot to adapt themselves to the changing environment. But organizations which are flexible, which are adaptable, which follows less rigidity, they are more responsive to the changes around them. Then multiple stakeholders also influence emergent strategy. Managers, employees, customers, and also external stakeholders all contribute in influencing the strategy. And that also helps in developing a strategy, and that could be the emergent strategy. Another important principle that guides emergent strategy is continuous learning, because continuous learning and adjustment, again component of flexibility and adaptability, but then continuous learning through which they know how to be flexible, in which direction they need to be adapting themselves, are very important for responding to uncertainty and increasing competition. Also, successful strategies may emerge unexpectedly, because great opportunities often arise by accident. It is not very much planned that this is what they will do, but as circumstances come, they end up doing something very good, which proves to be good for the organizations. Google provides an excellent example of emergent strategy. Google was able to recognize opportunity. Google initially focused on improving internet search. Its founders developed a superior search algorithm that produced more relevant results. Then Google also focused on learning and experimentation. Google continuously studied user behavior, and the company collected feedback and refined its technology. And through learning the user behavior, their feedback, they were able to adapt themselves. They were able to learn what needs to be done. Another feature of Google is strategy evolution. Over time, Google expanded beyond search. into, let's say, online advertising, email services, cloud computing, mobile operating systems, and even artificial intelligence. Many of these opportunities emerged after the company's initial success because they continuously looked for more opportunities and they continuously kept evolving strategy. Also, there is competitive advantage in case of Google because Google's strength include continuous innovation, knowledge creation, technological capabilities that Google has, and also adaptability. So, continuous technological development, adaptability to the changing market needs, to the customer preferences, helped Google changing its strategy when required and bringing small changes with time. Today, Google is one of the world's most influential technological companies. Its success illustrates how a strategy can evolve through learning and experimentation rather than strict long term planning. Let us consider few questions which you may think about, which I may also answer in brief. How can new technology solve existing problems? When we say technological adaptation, we must know that technology often improves efficiency. New technology often improves speed, accuracy, and also customer satisfaction. And that is why it is important to one's organizations to changing technology. Can we understand what new opportunities emerged during growth or may emerge during growth in any organization? So, organizations frequently discover markets they never originally intended to enter because sometimes they see that opportunities lie in those markets which they might not have even thought of earlier. They may be having a fixed plan, but once they find opportunity, they somehow adapt themselves to the changing environment, to the demands, and they have to change the existing strategy. Also, how does any company expand beyond its original purpose? A company may expand beyond its original purpose as a result of experimentation and learning, trial and error method. They need to see what works, and then only companies may expand beyond its original purpose. Long-term success are created through continuous innovation and continuous adaptation. If a plan is fixed and there are changes in outside environment, changes in the demands or needs of customers, changes in government policies, but if there's a fixed plan according to which a company is running, not changing itself, not adapting to the changes happening around, then that company would become very rigid and may fade with time. So there is a need for continuous innovation and continuous adaptation because that will create a long-term success. So sustained competitive advantage and market leadership could be achieved if the strategy is evolved during a like through over a period of time as a result of changes and as a result of demands around. Several theories support the emergent perspective. These theories include survival based theories, uncertainty based theories, human resource based theories, innovation and knowledge based theories, and each of these theories explain strategy emergence from a different perspective. Let us take survival based theories first. So, survival based theories are influenced by evolutionary thinking. The central idea is that organizations survive when they successfully adapt to environmental conditions. Similar to biological evolution, organizations which survive are stronger and less Adaptable organizations somehow, like I said, may disappear, may fade away with time. So, the key assumptions of this theory is that markets are highly competitive, resources are limited, environmental pressures influence organizational behavior, and on the basis of these assumptions, the survival based theories are working. So, strategic success depends upon the adaptability rather than detailed planning. Example of this theory include companies that successfully transform themselves during, let's say, technological disruptions. Because of active experimenting, learning, and adjusting, they are able to survive for a long period of time, and because of this, these organizations also become stronger. They are able to identify their competitive advantage and they are able to run accordingly. So, survival based strategies view the ability of the strongest and the most adaptable company to survive in the marketplace as a main factor shaping strategic management. Now, these theories recognize that business environments are highly uncertain. So, another theory that is there is uncertainty based theories. Future events cannot always be predicted accurately. Examples may include, let's say, economic crisis, technological breakthroughs, also political instability, even global pandemics. So, there are so many uncertainties that may be there in the future, and organizations may not be able to predict accurately what will happen in future and if the strategy that they're adopting today will work tomorrow or not. So managers face incomplete information because of this factor of uncertainty. Therefore, forecasting becomes difficult. Strategic flexibility becomes more valuable, and organizations must prepare themselves for possible futures. For, let's say, situation A, what will they do? And also for situation B, if it arises, what would they do? The ability to adapt becomes more important than the ability to predict. So, this is the uncertainty based theory, which many times apply mathematical probability concepts to explain that strategic management is complex, unpredictable, and constantly changing. And because of that, making any accurate prediction becomes difficult or nearly impossible. Next is human resource based theories, which emphasize that people are the strategic assets in any organization. Human resource based theory is influenced by employee motivation. It says that motivated employees contribute innovative ideas. This strategy is also influenced by organizational culture. The human resource based theory says that shared values influence decision making, and thus strategy is also influenced by organizational culture. According to human resource based theory, strategy is also influenced by internal politics because different groups which are there in within the organization may influence strategic direction. So that is also an important factor which influences strategy. Then strategy is also influenced by individual aspirations. Employee often identify opportunities before senior management does, and many times individual aspirations may lead to to developing a strategy in that direction. So this perspective highlights the importance of leadership, communication, employee involvement, and teamwork. And human resource based theories of a strategy focus on the role of people in strategy development. emphasizing employee motivation, organizational culture, internal politics, and individual aspirations, because many strategic innovations originate from employee rather than top executives. And that is why interaction, communication, and the way people uh, arrange meetings, it is all very important. It brings them close to a process of trial and error, which can be used to devise a strategy, because through trial and error method they can see which strategy works the best in a given scenario. Another theory which support the emergent strategic process is innovation and knowledge based theory. Innovation and knowledge based theories argue that knowledge is the most valuable organizational resource. Competitive advantage comes from creating knowledge, where new ideas can be developed, new solutions are developed, so knowledge is created. So competitive advantage is developed. Competitive advantage also comes from sharing knowledge, where collaborations are encouraged across the departments, where interdepartmental teams work together, where tasks are given to teams where the team members are from different departments and they are bringing their own knowledge, their own experience with respect to their own departments. So it is a part of sharing knowledge, and competitive advantage may be achieved through this. Then competitive advantage also comes from innovation, where transforming ideas into valuable products and services becomes important, where trying new technologies, where trying new products, new ideas are very valuable. The example which we can think of um, in this case is, let's say, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and Tesla. These companies succeed because they continuously generate and apply knowledge. Innovation becomes the engine of strategic development in the case of these organizations, and there are many, many more organizations which rested upon innovation and sharing knowledge, creating knowledge, and giving importance to the innovation. So they considered this as the most valuable organizational resource. So this is innovation and knowledge based theory, which emphasize that the creation of new ideas and sharing of knowledge is the key driver of strategic development and success. So when innovation and learning takes place, there are some strategy development and there could be some trial and error methods which could be used. Although emergent strategy offers many benefits, it also has limitations. Critics argue that in the emergent strategy, there could be a lack of clear direction because organizations may become reactive rather than proactive. So, earlier, when there is no emergent strategy, they may not be knowing that which direction to go, or whichever um, need emerges, they just start addressing that, and they don't have a clear direction that which way they should be working upon. So this could be one of the limitations of emergent strategy. Another limitation of emergent strategy is resource misallocation. It is said that too much experimentation, which emergent strategy supports, it may waste resources, because every time they are this strategy suggests to try to to try as per the changing circumstances, ad- to adapt to the changing scenario. So that may require a lot of resources, and many times if it doesn't work, many resources could be wasted. Another limitation which is identified by the critics in case of emergent strategy is the problem of coordination. It is said that large organizations require a structure, large organizations require planning, and if there is too much dependency on emergent strategy, there could be lack of coordination. Also, there could be difficulty in managing large projects. Major projects often require clear schedules and objectives, but in emergent strategy, it may not be possible because schedules may be changing, objectives could be getting modified. So, managing large projects could become difficult. Therefore, many experts suggest to combine plan strategy and emergent strategy because it creates a balanced approach. The planned strategy, that is prescriptive strategy, and emergent strategy could be combined, could be brought together to create a balanced approach. Now, let us summarize the key lessons obtained from this session. Emergent strategy views strategic management as a process of learning, a process of experimentation. Now, strategic direction is influenced by environmental changes, technological developments, unexpected opportunities. Knowledge and innovation drive competitive advantage. Flexibility helps organizations cope with uncertainty. So, people, culture, leadership, these significantly influence strategic outcomes. Competitive advantage often develops gradually rather than through one major strategic decision. So, this approach is especially useful in dynamic and uncertain environments, which is the emergent strategy that could be useful when the circumstances are unpredictable. In conclusion, emergent strategy represents a realistic view of how many organizations actually develop strategy. Instead of relying entirely on long term plans, organizations learn, adapt, experiment, and evolve with time. The modern business environment is characterized by rapid change, making flexibility and continuous learning essential for long term success. Understanding emergent strategy helps managers become more adaptive. Innovation is also welcomed in this case and responsive to opportunities and challenges. As we also discussed, that critics say that there are certain limitations of emergent strategy, and every time emergent strategy may not work because if from the beginning organizations may go for emergent strategy, they may not know which direction they're going, how much resources they might be sometimes wasting also because of the trial and error method, and also they may not be very clear that which direction to go. So it is suggested that there should be a amalgamation, there should be a combination of planned strategy as well as emergent strategy. So when maybe organizations are starting at the starting point, they may sometimes need emergent strategy because they need to explore in which area they are good, in which area they are doing better. But maybe with time, when organizations become larger, when they are handling bigger projects, then they may be having need to go for planned strategy. And even that time, if there is a big technological change, if there is a change in demands of customers, if there is change in government policies, in customer preferences, they may again need to adapt themselves according to the need of the circumstance. So it is suggested that it is a good way that if emergent strategy and the planned strategy could be combined, because it becomes a more balanced approach for any organization to formulate a more balanced strategy. So, this was today's session. Thank you.